every word. This is important.
6. I'd like to open the February 11th meeting of Building and Grounds. We'll start with a roll call, Nan. Nancy?
She's muted. Man, you're muted.
Nancy?
Okay, I'm in.
Hi, there she is.
Roll call. Okay.
Roll call?
Roll call. Let's see. Chairman Ford,
Present.
Mr. Cassianos,
Present.
and Ms. Gately. Present. Okay.
The purpose of tonight's meeting, and I think it's going to be brief, is was to outline what we want to do and reiterate further upon what we want to do with the Marshall School building. I sent you all an email this morning. I had a lengthy phone discussion with Rick Starbitt and Darren Sear. They would like to get together with the committee. The information I got yesterday was much different than what I had at the last meeting. So I think if we sit down with Darren and Rick in the council chambers live, if that's good with everybody, we can better understand the situation and what our assets and liabilities and what we can do with this. I've stated before that I want, senior housing, because I think we have a great need in Lynn for senior housing. And also, we don't need any more apartments with students because we're already overcrowded. So I think it makes sense, and that's where I'd like to go with the land. But they want to make a pitch to us with their side, what their information is. So I said, if the committee's agreeable, we'll meet with them at City Hall in the council chamber. Ms. Capola?
Thank you, Mr. Ford. I know I'm not on this committee, but I would just like to float an idea. We are very tight for space in our Lynn Public Schools. And when we get together with the counselors, and I'm sure the meal will need to be included in this, but the idea of having a separate preschool site, if we could have a piece of that property, and if all of it doesn't have to be turned over at one time, if we could join together and have a building that's for our preschoolers. Most of our preschoolers are bused anyways. It would open up some space in our elementary schools. And it's just an idea that I like to put on the table. And when we are discussing with Mr. Starbitt and Mr. Sear, if it's a possible idea, how it can work into the building. And it would be a great match for a location that does have elderly housing, which has probably got a community room. And it would be a nice match between our youngest and our oldest citizens.
Yeah, we can definitely bring that up. That's a great idea. I've heard it mentioned that, I think, Donna, it's what we should be trying to do. Lorraine?
I think we should meet with the city council, take Donna's idea into consideration, and make a motion to adjourn. Am I going too quick?
Maybe a little bit. Does anyone else want to add anything?
Ma'am.
And also, Mayor McGee.
Thank you, Member Ford. A couple of things. First, in terms of meeting in the council chamber, the council chamber still isn't established to do a Zoom. They don't do a real Zoom operation there. So I think if we want to do this, I think we can do it as a Zoom meeting. They take calls, and it's a little different setup than we have, and I think our setup is at least at this point works well. So I would suggest that we bring them into a discussion on a Zoom, not in the live council chamber. Secondly,
Right, Darren had suggested a live meeting. That's why
Yeah.
I thought I was willing to do it and Ms.
I think
Capola said she would.
I think logistically, unless we're able to put that together and ensure that the same kind of access is available through what we have on this call with our Zooms, which people can access easily, hear us directly, and if there ever had to be any discussion related to something else, that we've been able to do that. So I think logistically at this point, there's a problem there, and I'm still. From my perspective, this has been the safe, and I know that it's not the optimal way to do it, but we have been reflecting the safe way to move forward on these meetings. So that would be my suggestion. Secondly, in terms of what will happen at that location and having a broader discussion, I still think that as we look towards the substantial costs related to any use of that property, the building cost is the final cost is close to roughly between $8 and $10 million to address the building that will still remain there. Having ability to maybe have a small piece or a part of that location is a reasonable discussion to have. But I do believe that if we want to move forward and address what has to be done on that property, considering the costs and the ongoing challenge that we face with that property under the purview of the schools, reflects a continuing challenge, as we've, for the last almost 4 years now, have recognized that property is a challenge. Having an ability to identify different uses of that property back and forth between the school committee and the council is a challenge. So I think as we have that discussion moving forward with the council, from my perspective, I think it's time to let the property or either abandon it or have it deemed a surplus or whatever has to be done to allow the council in the city and my office, and I'd be involved in that as well as input from the school committee to move on from that and to start focusing on some of the things we really I think are timely to focus on. One is the additional dollars it will cost at least $1 million more than we anticipated to have the 10 schools that we've identified as needing new ventilation systems, which we want to do and has to be done to make those schools moving forward what we want them to be. And then the additional money that we want to spend related to the new Pickering or building a new Pickering and moving forward in that process as well. So from my perspective, I think we continue to have these discussions, and I think it's important we look at the reality of what we faced, the challenges that building brings, and to have an ability to get that site and repurpose it in a way that would work for the community and work for the neighborhood. I don't disagree at all that that's a good discussion, Member Capola, to have related to what could possibly be a part of that. But the real challenge, and if you've had a chance to look at the study from last May, and I know there was a discussion at the last meeting, we've had a lot on our plates this year. In many ways, it's on some things it's been a lost year, but the asbestos that pretty much is throughout every piece of that building, which really is a substantial challenge to addressing even the building and what's going to happen to that building moving forward. So I know we're not making a decision tonight, but my perspective and my position is I think we need to move forward to get that off of our plate and move it on to move it off to the city council and allow the city to really make a concerted effort to do something that will work for the community at large.
Ms. Capola?
Pierre, I understand where you're going, but I also understand we are losing space all over the city. I know we did a 148-page report on housing, Lynn, and the idea is to scoff up every piece of land. There's nothing left for us, for the schools. And if we don't think of how to relieve our elementaries in some way, and that's a small way of giving some more classroom space within our elementary. But also, you know, my concern is there'll be no space left to put any schools, and we desperately need them. We need a new Pickering, we need a new Tracy, but we also need space, new space.
If I could respond, Mr. Ford. Member
Mayor
Ford.
McGee?
Thank you. All valid points, Member Capola. I think the reality of trying to do something there in terms of the cost, what it would cost engineering to create a school space in there is a substantial challenge. I don't disagree, but I also think that there are other options to take a look at what we have in a number of the school locations, as well as either repurposing or rebuilding. And I think that has to be a part of our long-term plan. The opportunity to build a new Pickering on the site that would handle it, which is there's land, a repurposing of land right next to the building. No, we're not talking about the park there. The reality of a proposal that could be in the future on McManus Field and some of the other locations in the elementary school areas that have space that could accommodate or accomplish what you're talking about. There's absolutely a challenge the city faces. I know that the legislative delegation, Senator Crichton in particular, is filing legislation to revisit how the MSBA looks at school building, allowing more flexibility in terms of communities like Lynn, Brockton, Lawrence, to take a look at outside the box options that aren't really available under the criteria right now with the MSBA. So again, I know there's different perspectives here on what we need to do. I think the challenge on that site is real. I think the cost is substantial. And then looking to engineer, develop, and then reimagine that whole site that would, you know, not require substantial investment from the city that's putting good money to bad is the problem and the challenge. Again, I think that's part of the broad ongoing discussion we'll have. It'll be helpful to have the council president as well as Councilor Starbird come before the committee and allow us to have a broader discussion. If we're going to be doing that as a subcommittee, I would suggest that we allow a little bit of extra time, not a 15-minute time slot, but a bit more time to have a broader discussion about the options, the pros and cons, the challenges, the costs, and what other options are out there related to how we're moving forward on finding school space that we need.
Mr. Castellanos?
So I appreciate Member Capola's point, and Mayor, thank you respectfully for your points as well. And I look forward to the conversation with the council and to just have that broader, in-depth discussion. I have a question around just public involvement and transparency in terms of what we end up going with. I think that's an important piece that we got to really include here. Whether it's senior housing or whatever we decide to do with that space, I think it's important to figure out a mechanism where we could have that type of transparency so we could keep people in the loop of what's happening instead of having an article in the paper, and just to make sure that we get on the same page. I think that's very important to offer transparency. I think that's key to, I think, the next steps, approaches that we take with this process, with this space. And it's definitely a really important discussion to have. You know, the city was the school's space that we don't have. It's a real issue. And I share that same philosophy the way Member Capola just expressed her issues with that. So I think it is a discussion that needs to be really hammered out, not through just a 15-minute to half-hour time slot, but to actually get involved and really get on the ground with more work. And I understand the pitch last week with a previous meeting with our CFO did a wonderful job explaining that to us. It's just, I did receive a pretty large report. I did read the report from last year when it was released May 8th. So I did take a look, and it just for me, I just think we need to slow things down and really, and I know we want to move on and move it off to the city, but we need to take this slow and steady, so we don't make any false steps. That's just my view on that.
Mr. Satterwhite?
Thank you. You know, ultimately, I'd also like to include Dr. Tutwiler in these discussions. You know, he obviously understands the needs of our schools and whatnot. Not everyone's on the same page as to what the needs are, more so than the superintendent who sees it day to day and deals with it day to day. Obviously, we have an ever-growing population in our schools, more so than other districts. We have the data to prove that. And we don't have any additional space. So what do you do? That's I think that's what the issue is. And I know that, you know, the mayor and the councilors are coming to us and saying, listen, if we take it off the school's books, it will add additional funds that we can use and go to the MSBA and say, hey, we have these liquid cash to pay for this report, that report that's needed in order to get in the running, in order to get funded to build these schools. But, you know, we've been in this position now, you know, 3 or 4 years. So, you know, I really think that this needs to be thought out. I think it needs to be transparent. And I think we need the stakeholders to be involved, like we have been doing more and more so over the past couple of years. Again, we all have different ideas. You know, even something that was brought up to me was the pre-K, and we can do like a senior center there. And if we're going to have senior housing on the same spot, that's ideal for them. It's more attractive for people to actually live there because they can use the center and not have to have so much space in their facility. So there's a lot to be discussed, you know, and I think that it's good that we're going to be able to do so. And again, I like that we're able to put out what our ideas are at this point, but I'd also like Dr. Tutwiler to be able to express his image on what the sites look like. Thank you.
Ms. Gately?
Am I off? Okay. I really would like to meet in person at City Hall, Mayor. I haven't met with my colleagues. Can we just have like a buildings and grounds meeting with the City Council, Dr. Tutwiler? I mean, could we do it in City Hall? Is it safe now in City Hall? They meet in City Hall, and there's 11 of them.
Mayor McGee, did you want to respond on that? I know the Darren had said they meet in City Hall.
Again, I think we've been quite prudent on what we've done on the school committee, and I think we've set up an appropriate protocol online with the Zoom. So I guess the question I have is, you're talking about two different things. We're going to have a full committee meeting, or you want to have a subcommittee meeting? The question is there an ability to handle it as both? Is there an ability to handle it in the way that we handle these meetings here? So I'm open to that discussion if there's an ability to establish the kind of online protocol that we're utilizing here. So I don't know if we have to decide that immediately tonight, but we can have that discussion either offline as we move forward related to what would be an appropriate meeting. I do understand that these meetings, I was on a Zoom for 6 or 7 straight hours yesterday in this particular meeting, and for 4 hours today. So it's definitely different when you're with 60 or 70 people in a meeting and on Zoom instead of in person. But in the same respect, we've been trying to be smart and safe as we move forward on these meetings, reflected the reality that we have in the community. So again, I think if we can discuss offline what would be an appropriate schedule or setup for that, I'm open to that discussion while we incorporate the Director of Health and also the technology that allows us to do it in a way that everyone can access it easily as it is on these Zoom calls. So open to that discussion after tonight's meeting to see what is possible related to the next meeting, if it is a subcommittee meeting, and then we can talk about further about the larger meeting.
Okay, if there's no further comments, I would entertain a motion to table tonight's meeting, and then we can work out the logistics of how we're gonna handle the follow-up meeting.
Motion made.
The second.
Motion made and seconded to table. The motion to table is non-debatable. The issue for tonight is tabled.
Thank you.
Does that require a vote, John? Excuse me, Chairman.
It doesn't- There's actually no reason for a vote because you would have to take the matter
Non-debate.
off the table.
Okay.
The matter is presently tabled.
Thank you, Attorney Miles.
As, we've got about 9 minutes till, the meeting, so, people want to take a nine or so minute, break before we go into the full meeting.
Need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Okay, roll call?
Let me get into my, beginning of the meeting, and then we can get into a roll call.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Welcome to the third regular meeting of the Lynn School Committee for Thursday, February 11th, 2021. As a preliminary matter, we will confirm attendance. So at this point, Nan, if you could confirm attendance of the members and those that will be part of the meeting.
Ms.
Roll call.
Cassianis? Ms. Cassianis?
Present.
Present. Ms. Capola?
Present.
Mr. Ford?
Present.
Ms. Gately? Present. Ms. Nicholson?
Present.
Mr. Satterwhite?
Present.
Mayor McGee?
Present.
Perfect attendance.
Okay, and we have, I see with Dr. Tut, would you make sure that the others that are here for the meeting are here? John Myhouse, the Deputy
Present.
Superintendent. Okay, Dr. Tutwiler,
Present.
Deputy Superintendent Ruggiero,
Present.
Deputy Superintendent Powers,
Present.
Kevin McHugh,
Present.
and Mary Jules.
Present.
And our
Thank you.
student.
Yes, and our student.
Present.
We can't forget that. Good to see your face on the screen. Go ahead, Dr. Tutwiler.
He would like to be referred to as Harvard admitted Eric Nacio for me going forward.
We will make sure that Harvard admitted Ignacio Furman is his call name as we go through these meetings. Congratulations. That
Thank
is
you, Ma'am.
great news. It's great to see your face on the screen as part of this meeting tonight.
Thank you. Nice to see you as well.
And that's big news. Again, this is Mayor Tom McGee, and I'd like to say good evening and thank you for joining us. This open meeting of the Lynn School Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of the public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting on the city website, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. For this meeting, the Lynn School Department is convening by telephone conference. The Lynn School Committee is convening by telephone conference via video conference via the Zoom platform as posted on the city's website and on the Lynn Public Schools website. Additionally, this meeting can be viewed on the local cable channels, Channel 3 for Comcast, Channel 37 for Verizon. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other people may be able to see you and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Before we return to the first item on the agenda, I want to cover some ground rules for the effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. As the chairman, I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, I will go down the line of the members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, question, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in discussion with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. Each vote of this meeting will be conducted by a roll call. And with that, I would ask that all of you join, and I know that we are also have on the screen the meeting room with Don Hussey has had to join me in a salute to the flag of the United States of America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'd ask that you remain standing so we can recognize and in memory those who have, for a moment of silence, who have passed away and who we will take a moment of silence for tonight. Douglas Brown, former paraprofessional who passed away on January 23rd of 2021. Edward Lukowitz, retired teacher on January 24th of 2021. Shanorig Ishkanian, retired teacher on January 26th of 2021. Virginia Breedy, retired teacher on January 30th of 2021. And Christine Boverini, retired clerk on January 30th of 2021. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Look, I know you have your agendas. First on the agenda tonight, we have some presentations, and I asked Dr. Tutwiler to start us off with those presentations. Dr. Tutwiler.
Mayor, we're prepared for those presentations, but I believe there's a wish of the committee this evening.
Is a wish of the
I believe.
would like to speak to that.
To the next week,
Pardon me?
to move them to the next school committee meeting.
There's a wish for the committee to move all of the presentations to the next school committee meeting?
Yep.
Is that in the form of a motion?
A motion, yeah, I guess. I was just told that they weren't even on here, so it's okay.
Is that the will of the committee?
Is there a second, is what you're asking, Mr. Mayor, or John, Attorney Myhouse, does it need to be more specific?
No,
Okay.
just the committee wishes to move them over to the next meeting.
Make a motion and move them to the next meeting?
Yeah.
I'm just a little, I just a little, without discussion.
Member Castellanos, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, maybe, yeah, just a little bit of where, I'm just a little bit, have some clarification, like publicly, because I did have some folks interested in some of these items that were publicly put on the agenda today, so some of my constituents were looking forward to watching these presentations, so I just want to kind of get some clarification on why we're going to be pushing these over. And also, just I had people watching that who want to see. I just kind of don't know. I feel like I'm left out.
Other discussion on that?
We moved them forward because they didn't have who was presenting these these presentations on the agenda. So next time they'll be on the agenda, so we'll know who's presenting. That's the way it always has been and should be.
Dr. Tutwiler?
Mayor, I would just like the record to reflect, not to be argumentative, but that is not always how it's been presented on the agenda. We went back and looked at agendas back to August, and there are presentations on agendas that have no names. There are presentations that have my name, but I introduce it and other people are presenting. So I just want to be clear that it's not reflective of a departure from anything that we've done this year, or frankly, since I've been superintendent. I just want to be clear about that.
No, and your point's well taken. I know that there's numerous times that we have presentations and you are presenting and there are other people that actually help in that presentation. So it was, again, the point's well taken. Is there other discussion from committee members?
Was there a second made already?
The legal team obviously with that help of.
No.
I'll make a second then. Second to the motion.
Any other discussion from any other members? I guess the question becomes, and Member Castellano's point is well taken, that there's people that are prepared for this presentation tonight to be heard. Obviously, that would be, so, yes, Dr. Tutwiler.
Mr. Mayor, the documents, all of the slides for the presentation are public documents and can be reviewed by anyone who's watching this program. And it's our plan to make these presentations at the next meeting, which I believe is the 25th of February. There are students, building principal, our consultants, and some LPS staff who'll be involved in those presentations. We're excited to do it on the 25th.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying that, and I think that point's well taken, that this information is available. So, Member Castellanos, any members that were looking to get this information, you get a full, at least slide presentation, and then can get the in-person presentation related to the discussion on the last, on the date of February 25th. And as we vote to extend it to that, which there is a motion and a second on that roll call, those presentations will be made on the 25th. Roll call required. Yes, Member Satterwhite.
Can I just get clarification from Attorney Myhouse? Attorney Myhouse, with us doing this motion, is it going to be binding that the administration have to list who the presenters are on future minutes?
I think that the administration has agreed. The school committee member raised the issue. So the superintendent agreed that when he knows who the presenter is going to be, he will put it on the agenda. If he doesn't know who the presenter is going to be, at the time the agenda is printed, then it'll just reflect his name, and it has been done in the past. And the presenter would be present at the meeting to discuss the issue.
And I believe in this case, Dr. Tutwiler did provide us the information as to who was presenting prior to the meeting. It just wasn't documented in the agenda.
Was on the agenda.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So we're clear here. This is an agreement that the superintendent will make sure that he, as he is aware, will make those presenters available prior to the meeting. But as has been done in the past, can list a presentation related to different presentations as Dr. Tutwiler himself. So again, the only motion on the table, from what I understand, is to move these presentations to the next meeting. That's the motion on the table. That's what's been seconded, and that's what there'll be a roll call on. Roll call required.
Nan, you're mute. You're still mute, Nan.
I'm muted.
There There you go.
Am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes? There you are.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Cassianis?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Capola?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Ford?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Gately?
Yes.
Yes. Mrs. Nicholson?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Satterwhite?
Yes.
Mayor McGee?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Next on the agenda is new business, under new business. Dr. Tutwiler, would you like to speak to the donation amount that's been proposed?
Yeah, just quickly, seeking the committee's support in accepting a donation in the amount of $100 from Richard and Diane Gannon. The money through the Lynn Business Ed Foundation will go to the Lynn English Special Ed Department.
Motion to accept.
Second.
The motion has been made by Member Ford, seconded by Member Satterwhite. Roll call required.
Cassianis?
Yes.
Ms. Capola?
Yes.
Mr. Ford?
Yes.
Ms. Gately?
Yes.
Mr. Nicholson?
Yes.
Mr. Satterwhite?
Yes.
Mayor McGee?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Next is a budget timeline. Dr. Tutwiler or Kevin McHugh. Dr. Tutwiler, will you be presenting that?
That is me. Yes, sir.
Great. Thank you.
Just quickly, one second here. Very, very simple and straightforward. I just wanted to acquaint the committee with a timeline for the development of the FY22 budget. This is a timeline, that should ring pretty familiar. I'd say for fiscal years 19 and 20, this is pretty much the timeline that we followed with respect to the development and the final presentation to the school committee. So we all know FY21 was a whole different situation. But just quickly, again, much of this should ring familiar. At the very top of this document or of the timeline is perhaps one departure. We're in the midst of, or just moved beyond the midpoint of the current school year, leveraging new skills, using new tools, realizing new efficiencies this school year. And really that brings forth to us an opportunity to think about an enhanced and different experience for students next year. And that really begins with getting input broadly, starting as we already have with principals and directors. We're moving to staff in the coming weeks in the form of a survey, and also families and students. So that January to March a span of months is our opportunity to get some input on what folks really like and what they feel is working well this year that we should make a mainstay for next year and beyond. Beyond that, there are 4 action items on the timeline that we pretty much engage every year with respect to supporting principals and directors with the development of their budgets, providing them the information they need to make sound decisions about their needs as we look ahead to the next year. And as we believe will be a sort of a typical timeline or finish point, at some point in May, we hope to finalize and present a budget for fiscal 22 to the school committee. Just going back up to January 27th, the governor has released Brian got kicked out, has released a budget for FY22 and Chapter 70 for Lynn Public Schools looks like an increase of $12.2 million. This is, his definition of a Student Opportunity Act funds. So we will be bringing to bear and layering over our decision-making the plan that was presented to you. Of course, this is not as much as we were originally slotted to receive, but nonetheless, it is a substantive increase and one that we intend to leverage in making, the plans that we laid out in the Student Opportunity Act plan come to fruition. So at this point, I just wanted to make the school committee aware of the timeline and some of the major activities that we intend to engage over the next 4 months and change. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Member Nicholson? Then Member Sadoway.
Thank you, Dr. Telwell. It's just really helpful to see this, the timeline and also I think a good opportunity for us to together keep tabs on this process as it unfolds. To your point about the collaboration, so that and I think those activities are incredibly helpful to be soliciting that input. And as you mentioned, I think we have a really solid blueprint with the Student Opportunity Act plan. I had a couple questions about where we are. So the first question I had on the 12.2 billion, is our sense there that is a per student spending increase that would be in line with the Student Opportunity Act, or is that sort of more driven by enrollment?
Kevin, do you want to jump in on that?
Sure. Actually, the enrollment, our technical enrollment is down right now for two factors. One, I think to the pandemic, we lost some students to parochial schools or Catholic schools. We've lost some students to that point. Plus, actually, this year, because our program is a half-day kindergarten, we do not get a full credit. So you don't get a full credit. So hypothetically, let's say the average student cost is $12,000 for a half-day kindergarten. You only get $6,000 per student. So this year, our enrollment went down. So that's why I think this year that's still a pretty good number. But if we had full-day kindergarten, this number would have been more than that right now. So I think this is pretty much maintained. The minimum effort that the governor put in for any district was $30 a student, but this would be more than that. So I think that this is mostly towards the Student Opportunity Act is where this funding is coming from.
Got it.
Does that help?
Yeah, no, that's what I was looking for. I mean, to the extent that there are those kinds of quirks in the enrollment numbers that are affecting us, hopefully that's something we can communicate to our delegation in the legislative process. I think they would be supportive of talking through that with us. That was something that we had worked on, I know, for a few years and making up for the change in the definition of low-income student, which I know is sort of a ongoing discussion. So, hopefully that is something we can make progress on as well.
Could I just respond to that, Jared?
Yes, please.
Yes, actually, there is an effort being looked to possibly refine these numbers and go back to the prior year numbers, which would change these drastically, because we're not the only district that has seen a downturn in enrollments, and that is a process that we've already provided information to people down at the State House, so that I know it's being looked at and there's an effort. I'm not sure if it'll get pushed through, but as this process goes through the House and the Senate, that could be a possibility. So, as we'll follow this through the opportunity. So that discussion is happening as we speak down at the State House.
Terrific. That's perfect. And obviously, if we can be helpful on the committee, in the past, we've tried to add our voice to some of those advocacy efforts. So at the right moment, Mr. McHugh, it sounds like you're keeping tabs on that. At the right moment, if you'd like to invite us in, I'm sure our state delegation would be interested in working with us on that. The other question I had, so that's helpful, thank you. The other question I had is when is the right moment? When will we have a good enough idea of what kind of savings have resulted, if any? Or I should say, what the differential between the projected and actuals for this year's budget? That was a substantial number last year as a result of impact on operations, and I think we're projecting some differential. When will that number be something that people could start planning around, and will we expect to come back before us?
Kevin?
Yes, I would kind of hope that by the 1st of April that we'd have a good handle on where we are, because as we continue to bring additional students back, I mean, a good chunk of the savings is coming from transportation, so we know that. So I just want to have a better handle on where those funds are. And if you recall, we also did take a discussion, a previous vote to help with the offsetting of some of those maintenance, air quality issues in the building that don't have ventilation, working with the city. I have been in discussion with Mike Bertino about that, so we're collaborating back and forth on that. So some of the savings that, like from my substitute lines or things like that, would probably moved into those funds to help offset those. So I probably have a good idea by, I would say, April 1st. That way we're going into the last quarter and we can bring it back where those funds will be utilized and bring it back to you guys.
Okay, yeah, that sounds perfect. I mean, I imagine we would need to go through a similar process for savings for this fiscal year as we did for last fiscal year, but that sounds good. We'll look out for that. And then the last question I had was, I think we're hoping potentially that and I know that the governor may have already factored this in, but there might be some changes with respect to the federal spending. Is that affecting our planning? Do we have the capability to sort of plan by scenarios based on where we think the possibilities are in terms of getting an increased allocation because of changes at the federal level?
So that is not necessarily, that is actually pretty concrete. That there are additional stimulus dollars coming to the district. There was a webinar on the topic, I think 2 days ago. We're just wrapping our head around that, and as soon as we have clarity, we will definitely bring that information to the school committee to discuss where it fits in the overall budget planning.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McHugh, and thank you, Dr. Talwala. Very helpful.
Member Satterwhite,
Thank you.
and then Member Capola, and then Member Castellanos.
Obviously, Dr. Tutwiler, my assumption, and it should be a correct assumption, is that our budget's going to align on our district vision and what goals we set out. If anything, this pandemic has enhanced the needs in many areas of our vision, equity being one of them. We were able to see right away that our students are not on equal footing, especially having to do work from home and try to learn from home in the unique households that our students live in. So aside from that, what I want to make sure, and if you can give me information, has prior to the building principals and directors developing a budget, have they or will they have had a school council meeting to get input from families that are within their buildings to make sure that they're seeking and requesting money to go towards the need of those particular community schools?
So we can definitely, we made that a pretty prominent feature of the development of the Student Opportunity Act plan, if you recall. And in that first line there, the visioning the near future, we're actually planning to survey all families and also planning to survey secondary high school students in particular to get that broad feedback. The school site councils are a great place to get direct and deep feedback and input from families. But our plan right now is to go pretty broad, really with respect to the experience of this year and thinking about what families would like to see as part of their students' experience in the next year. And you started off the conversation talking about some of the concerns that we have about students, mental health, about their social emotional well-being. As I said in the outset, in talking about the timeline, the Student Opportunity Act plan, that's not going to go on a shelf. That is a real document that we intend to bring to bear on the budget planning for next year. And if you recall, there was a significant element of that plan that was focused on mental health There was a significant element to that plan that was focused on closing decades-old gaps as it relates to special education and English learner education. And so those are things that we intend to bring forward into this process. And remember that document was not a document developed, in a back room. That was developed fully in partnership with the community, and we're committed to bringing it forward for FY22.
Thank you.
Member Capola?
That he just.
Sorry, it took us a while. In looking at this, I'm wondering, don't we know the budget before May? I mean, I know there's been some times when we've struggled, financially, and we've had, later budgets. But when it gets into May for the finalize and present final budget to the school committee, my concern is by the time we've reviewed it, school will be out. And that's when I think a public hearing should be when we're within the school time. So people can have input. They haven't left, off for the summer and not in school. And I'm just wondering, do we normally get like a draft copy sooner than that? And then just updated pages? Maybe Kevin would have the answer to that.
Mayor, if I may just quickly, I'll let Kevin speak to that because he's got a tighter handle on the historical. What I would say is, as soon as we have, and not to put the mayor on the spot, but as soon as we have a number from the city, and after the process has run its course at the state level, then we can move pretty quickly. I would be happy to move that timeline up. But what I don't want to do, and this is a mistake that I made my first year, and I willingly admit, that we began to put the chips together, so to speak, without all of the information. And, we ended up doing the same work twice. And I don't think we have that luxury. So this is a very cautious timeline, but certainly if things can be moved up so that the final presentation is happening earlier, we're all for that. Kevin?
Actually, I would kind of agree. In my 12 years of doing the budget, coming up on year 13, is that as soon as we get the we get a better sense where the state is going, and we work with the city side to kind of confirm what the appropriation will probably be for this year. We've had it out as soon as April, the middle of April. So if we can get it out that early, that's great. And we've had it out, as you know, I think, Donna, we've actually approved budgets in August. I mean, so it's run the gamut based on, the delegations, down at the State House and approving their budgets, or getting a good sense for where they're going to be. There have been years where they've agreed with the governor's numbers early on, and we've actually got a budget to the school committee members in April, which would be ideal and gives plenty of time to go through the process. But typically, I find it's like early May is when we try to get everyone a budget and then have our meetings and go through that process and hopefully get approved before the end of June, and it's typically, I think last year we did get it before the end of June. It was like the 1st of June, we actually did our meeting. So the first meeting in June. So, we're trying to stay with that as a guideline. It can be moved up, and I would say that we would definitely move it up if we get it completed to you as soon as possible.
So just a quick point on that. We anticipate a much more, I don't want to say normal, but realistic timeline this year. Last year was obviously quite unique when we finalized the budget so late in the year. But the city budget is going forward. The governor's budget came out on time and with I think an increase in dollars, as Dr. Tutwiler indicated. The federal dollars that may be available, as Dr. Tutwiler talked about, will be identified soon. And then the question of an additional President Biden's additional proposal of 1.9 trillion definitely includes school funding as part of that. So we'll be anticipating hopefully a reasonable timeline this year. depending on the House and Senate. But if they can come to, as Kevin was saying, come to an agreement on the Chapter 70 investment early on, then that will allow us to move this forward in an expedited manner. I think over the next few weeks, some of that picture will become clearer, but anticipate a much more normal process. And I think that May number reflects a reasonable reality and could be an opportunity for earlier, depending on what numbers, both at the federal and state level, play out over the next 2 or 3 months. Member Castellanos?
So I do want to echo Member Satterwhite's point about the PTOs, the families, the parents, the folks that are involved at the school level. I think public involvement's very crucial. Collaboration during budget season is very important, like more than ever. And with the federal funds that, I feel like the accuracy right now in that budget, we have to wait for the clear picture in upcoming weeks and months. But what are we going to do to increase the scope of communication during this process? Because I see in the action steps, Dr. Tutwiler, which is wonderful. I see there's lots of district collaboration and at each school. I see that. But feedback from parents and the folks at that level is crucial. And it definitely takes a village. And as I prepare as a school committee member, I always run through my constituents and see, I like to vision with them and explain to them your process. But it's a very complex budget season. As you know, we are going through these difficult times, but definitely would like to see some sort of public involvement mechanism. Also, when that federal intervention does approach us, I would love for us to have a stop point to get some more communication out just to the public to make sure folks are with us as we go through this season and budget transparency. Really, that's what I really would aim for.
Points well taken. Right there with you.
Member Satterwhite? Not seeing anyone else that has a question.
And Brian, I'm just going to further clarify what you're saying, just for the general public. I don't believe that what Mr. Castellanos was saying is that obviously there is the community input meeting that we have before the budget is approved. The meeting that we typically have prior to. What Brian is saying and what I was saying is I'd like to see the involvement more so in the beginning, which is what you agreed to. Or you said was happening at this particular point in time. Just so it's not going to take away the community input meeting, but it's better to have that way in advance as opposed to changing things at the end. So thank you.
Other questions on the budget schedule? Budget timeline for FY 2022? Yeah, I see no questions. And on the agenda, the last thing is the enrollment report and superintendent's report. Dr. Tutwiler?
Yeah, that's me, Mayor, and I'll be brief. There is a superintendent's report that'll be posted tomorrow. And just briefly, what I outline in it is first a celebration. The fact that we are we've offered in-person services for some of our neediest students, those whose needs we struggle to meet the most in remote learning, and so far so good. We are thrilled to have students back in the buildings, to see buses rolling with our students on them, and we are working in earnest to make our plan for March come to fruition. Welcoming additional groups of students back for in-person learning. But the point made in the report is, really draws the difference between what happened in March, a very swift, very abrupt stop to in-person learning, versus our trajectory back to in-person learning, which will not be swift or abrupt. It will be slow and cautious and safe. That was the point that was made in the superintendent's report. Really, this is a stream of my consciousness. The superintendent's reports sort of taken to that because so much of the information is conveyed through presentation and through the substance of the conversations at the committee level. But that was all I had to say, Mayor.
Great, thank you, Dr. Tutwiler. And just want to make a couple of points related to what's happening at Lynn Tech Fieldhouse, and I want to thank Dr. Tutwiler and the administration and the school for the support in terms of our vaccination, the city vaccination site in partnership with Lynn Community Health Center. We had the first week last week, over 1,500 vaccinations were able to be given out at that location in 3.5 days. That continues this week. And I think it's important for all of people listening and for the members to know that that will continue. And there are actually appointments that have been made available for Saturday. We'll be there Saturday morning as well this week. But that is filling those that meet the current criteria established by the administration, those 75 and older, and others that are identified on our website. We want to make sure that people know that those appointments are available, that we want to get as many people vaccinated in our community as possible as we move ahead towards getting past this pandemic. The vaccinations are key, and I'm really happy that so much hard work went in to establishing that location, and we're looking forward to continuing that location as we open up more phases of the vaccinations. And so I think it's important just to note that it is available, that people can go get on and get appointments and make appointments to get their vaccinations, and then we'll be scheduled for a second vaccination to complete the process at a later time. So if we have the information, and if all of you want to share it on social media, spread the word. And the latest that the governor has identified, and I think is helpful for our community, because some people struggle. Maybe it's a struggle for them to get there, and working for other options with our health department. The Caggiano Towers had a vaccination clinic earlier this week, tomorrow at Wall Towers, and that's again by appointment only, but that'll be at those locations. But if caregivers will also be eligible for those vaccinations under the new current guidelines that have been identified, I think, as of today. So if there's someone that is 75 and there is a caregiver, that caregiver is having an ability to get someone who's 75 and older to the location, would also be eligible to get a vaccination as well. And that again is a new criteria that the governor's established. So it will be changing, but I just wanted to make the point that it is happening there. We will continue to be ramping it up as possible as vaccinations are available, and with a little bit of impact on the school location, but such an important step forward for our community. So it's been great to be able to use that location with the support of the administration and the principal at the school. Member Ford, you have a question?
Just from a point of customer satisfaction, I got my first injection at Lynn Tech. There was flawless. They do a great job. The firemen and the providers are doing a wonderful job.
I'm glad you brought that up. Police and fire, and I know the school nurses have been involved in helping out there as well. So there's been a lot of community effort to make this happen. It's been a challenge in a lot of places in the state, but with a lot of hard work and collaboration, we've been able to get that off the ground and get it up and running. And you're right, John. It's a great setup for people to come in, be able to get registered in, and then be there and be monitored for the first 15 or 30 minutes to see if there's any. And then there hasn't been any indication of problems there, but the setup is really top quality, and a lot of people are making it happen. So thanks for that input, and again, thanks to Dr. Tutwiler and the school administration for helping us work on that as well. So that's the end of the agenda tonight. Member Capola?
Yes, ma'am. The news tonight had that the Danvers location is 1,300 doses of the vaccine have gone wasted because, at the end of the day or whatever, they don't have the people to give the shots to. Are we planning anything so that we can accommodate and not waste our shots here?
That's all part of yes, that's part of all of the planning that goes into that, so that there is no waste, that there is establishing within criteria that I don't know if it was in the Herald that identified it clearly, but the DPH has identified certain steps that we can take to make sure that if we need to, if there's 5 or 6 or 8, if a vial's open and there's 5 or 6 or 8 vaccinations that need to be done within a couple of hours or whatever the timeline is, that we are putting in place to make sure that doesn't happen. So that is part of the planning. I don't know that it was the waste was at the Danvers location. I think that was a statewide number, but that is part of what we're doing. So all of those pieces of the puzzle that are make it a successful operation being planned, worked on, and established.
Only because, Mayor, we've probably all on the committee have received many emails from staff people who are very interested in being able to get in line and get them.
Yeah, understood. Yes. We'll work through that, and that's why I think it's important to have that location right here at Tech. So I appreciate that bringing that point up, and we, like I said, we are putting subject to the DPH suggestions how to deal with several doses that might be available at the end of the day, so they don't get wasted. And we will ensure with the team that's there that those will be put to good use. Any other thoughts or questions, Member Castellanos?
It was Member Capola did bring that up. I just want to just follow up with the urgency of getting our teachers and educators and staff vaccinated. That is a priority. It's definitely something that's very important, and it's vital, and it's something that needs to be worked on daily and not just talk about it. I think the fact that we see vaccines being wasted is just mind-boggling to me. It just frustrates me as you hear the frustrations from our folks right at the ground who are going back into the schools. It's traumatic, and I validate and I do feel that struggle. And it's like I mentioned it at the last meeting, but I know you guys are working very hard and diligent. I'm grateful for the work that's being done, and I know that's something that our governor and folks up top are working on. So I definitely want to be mindful, though, of just our educators are very much a priority and should be on that list of criteria. Thank you.
Yep. And we're following the recommendations of DPH. Again, that 1,300 wasted are statewide. It wasn't at one location, and they are really trying to determine that no other of those vaccinations get wasted, and that there is an ability to make sure that happens, and we're working to ensure it doesn't happen in Lynn. So it's and as the pool of those that are allowed to get vaccinated are expanded, we'll be ready to go, and we're ready to ramp up. There's an opportunity that we could have almost at least 700 vaccinations there a day, which I think is that's the goal. I don't know if I think I threw the number either yesterday or today. It was 450. Last week we were doing 90 an hour. So the operation is a good operation, and we will. I think our goal is to be as proactive and make that operation work as efficiently as possible, and get as many people in that we can handle in that location. And like I said, I think it's been set up really well, and we'll work to ensure that those that we know need to get vaccinated, when that opportunity comes, we will make sure that's we'll be right on top of that. Member Sadoway?
Thank you. Mayor, I like what you're doing right now with regards to putting this information out there. It's not often that we have these meetings, so it's good that the public is able to hear from you. Are we, based off of the numbers that you're seeing, are we headed in the right direction? Are we going to see a sense of normalcy in the not the near future, but in the coming future with regards to the positivity rate going down in the city?
We're definitely moving in the right direction. I think the vaccinations are a key piece of that. We've actually refocused our efforts. We put off the contact tracing to the state. We were spending time and energy to do the contact tracing. We shipped that off to the state so that we're able to really focus on vaccinations in the city, and it's not just at the Lynn Tech location. So I think that's one of the key pieces of this. I think the concern, if you continue to watch, is the variants that are coming up, and I think the urgency of vaccinations nationwide as well as obviously in the city, but making sure that we use the vaccinations that are available through the Lynn Community Health Center. They've been a great partner. North Shore Medical Center is also doing vaccinations up at the Urgent Care Center for their patients that are in their system. Like I said, our health department is doing starting to do some of the senior locations. So it really is, as the vaccinations are available, we want to work as quickly as possible to get as many people vaccinated. That's really going to get us to a place where we need to be. But the caseload over the last week, we're trending in a pretty good direction, considering we're really in a tough place. Like really, just about 2.5 weeks ago, we topped off as of yesterday over 15,000 cases in the city, which is pretty unbelievable when you think about it. But we are going in the right direction, and that's why I think the vaccination piece and the other part of this is that it's safe and it's effective, and I think that has to be. There's a lot of, we have a very diverse community with there's a lot of concern or hesitancy in different parts of, not only in Lynn but around the country in the initial attempts to get vaccinated. But I think it's important for all of us to continue to highlight how important it is to get these vaccinations as they're available, that it's safe, that it's effective, and that it's really going to help us get past what has been a really beyond challenging time for us, and we see it clearly in the schools, obviously.
Is there any transportation provided to our community members that qualify for these?
We're working on that as well. I think the first step last week was get the operation up and running. We had a really successful week. Like I said, in 3.5 days, we vaccinated over 1,500. I know our first day we were over almost 350, 351. And for our first day, that was at least 100 better than what Gillette Stadium had done their first day. So I think the operation is good. It's a question of keeping that along. And so we're trying to figure out how do we get out to the community, mobile operation. What can we do to transport people there? I think the plus for what the governor has proposed, allowing caregivers to bring people down and then be part of the vaccination, opens up the door a little bit, so people that are actually caring for or being able to work with people that probably couldn't get there but can get there with that support will be able to get vaccinated. And we're trying to find some resource, and we are partnering with NAHAT. So we are looking at, and I know with North Shore Medical Center through MGH Brigham, they're working on, they have a van that's being made available for information purposes and to get some of the care kits out, and whether we can ramp that up. So we are looking at all avenues to make it as effective as possible in the community to ensure that we get these vaccinations available to everyone through a broad range, both for seniors and, through the diverse population we have in the city. We want to make sure that everyone knows they're available, get it out in different languages, which we're working on, and that the access is real. So we're trying to meet all of those.
The access part's going to be the hard part, it sounds like.
It's a lot to do, but like I said, and I'm really impressed with the efforts that are going on from a whole broad range of people, and everybody's willing to step up and be part of the operation. So we've got it going. We're in our second week, and we just, I think we're looking to go forward and increase the operation as much as we can with the vaccinations that are available. And I think getting the message out to the community that we're doing this is an important part of that.
Thank you.
Yes, Member Castellanos.
Mayor, so for the individuals who have handicap or they lack that access ability, the privilege ability to move around freely and not even access the ride or those types of transportation, what are we doing to help provide access for those individuals?
We're working on that. We're working on that, trying to put the pieces together. Like I said, the first step was get it up and running, make sure it was going well. And so each day, I was on a call yesterday with, we do weekly calls with North Shore Medical Center and Lynn Community Health Center and our health department. And my chief of staff, Megan Hamill, are on calls weekly. We've been on those calls since spring, working on numerous parts of this pandemic. And so we had a pretty intensive discussion yesterday about that. So we're looking to any resources we can to make sure that we can get out to all of those people in the community. So we'll be building off what we have and trying to figure out how we get out in the community, what kind of mobile operation we can get going. And it's evolving day to day. The changes are coming and the efforts there. So those are on top of our list of how we can ensure that it isn't just, people can drive there and get there. What can we do to make sure that the rest of the community has those options? And I think that's part of the beginning of some of the senior centers, like the Wall Plaza, Caggiano Towers the other day. Some of those people are that live in those locations have issues with really being able to get out, particularly in the weather we had this week. Makes it a challenge. So we're going to try and meet those challenges and find the resources and the opportunity to get out to everyone that wants to get the vaccination, but hopefully, more importantly, that there's a large group of people in our city to understand that's an important piece of what we need to do moving forward. And as other vaccinations are available, the Johnson & Johnson, which would be one shot, not two shots, there's a lot of, over the next few weeks, and the administration, the new administration has really been laser focused on this, not only in the proposal for a financial package with Congress, but getting the vaccinations out and making sure it gets out to supermarkets. I know they're focusing more clearly on vaccinations directly to pharmacies. So the Walgreens and CVS are going to be available as this moves forward, Stop and Shop. So there will be options, but as those, like I said, day to day, we'll be working to make it a better operation.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you all. If there's nothing else, there's no other business on the agenda?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
That requires a roll call.
Marcianis?
Yes.
Ms. Capola?
Yes.
Mr. Ford?
Yes.
Ms. Gately?
Yes.
Mr. Nicholson?
Yes.
Mr. Satterwhite?
Yes.
And McGee?
Yes. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Stay safe and healthy.
Night all.
Good night.
Thank you. Everyone have a nice night.